recorder is on. And okay, Trish, you're up to bat.
For our readers, and that would be Tim and Lisa tonight. Please read slowly and be close to your microphone so we can hear you. And we will be recording in audio only so that we can put this on our podcast and on our YouTube channel. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our bi-monthly Foundations meeting of the Lppbbsg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group. We are glad you are here. My name is Trish and I am an alcoholic.
And my name is Jamie, and I am an alcoholic. Let's start this meeting with the set-aside prayer. Just a second, I will get it up here in screen share. Coming to a screen in front of you. Set-aside prayer. God, please set aside everything I think I know about myself. The 12 steps, the big book, the meetings, my disease. But most especially, God, please set aside everything I think I know about you, so that I may have an open mind and a new experience with all these things. Please let me see the truth.
And our preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and to help other alcoholics achieve sobriety.
The Lppbbsg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group mission statement: to carry the message of Alcoholics Anonymous through our group, to carry the message of the Big Book to treated and untreated alcoholics, to help them find the spiritual solution outlined in our basic text, and join the first 100 to become recovered. There is no cure for alcoholism, but we can become recovered with the AA Big Book and 1940s style Big Book sponsorship. That is the purpose of this group. May you join us on the road of happy destiny.
And from the preface, because this book has become the basic text for our society and has helped such large numbers of alcoholic men and women to recovery, there exists strong sentiment against any radical changes being made in it. Therefore, the first volume of this portion describing the AA recovery program has been left largely untouched.
Hang on just a second before we go any farther, Trish. Since some of you are new and have never been to this before, a lot of the stuff that you hear Trish and I talking about, you won't find in the book at all. So if you're searching, don't bother. We will give out page numbers and sentences and paragraphs to be read to Trish or to Tim and Lisa as we go along. So that's where you will want to turn into. The rest of it is information and understanding of what a foundation really is all about. So picking up where Trish left off, we want them to know what alcoholism is, what the solution is, and how to take the action that is necessary to avoid death or insanity by drinking. For example, to get from the problem to the solution.
Now, turn to the forward to the first edition, which would be page XIII, first published in 1939, and was introduced by stating, Lisa, when you get there, can you please read the whole first paragraph, and then we will dissect it.
And the pages that we're giving tonight are 4th edition pages. If you happen to have a 3rd edition, it will be one page earlier.
And Lisa and Tim, go ahead and unmute, please.
It's X. What is it, Trish?
XIII, the first paragraph in the forward to the first edition.
Okay. I'm Lisa, I'm an alcoholic. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book. For them, we hope these pages will prove so convincing that no further
Authentication.
authentication will be necessary. We think this account of our experiences will help everyone to better understand the alcoholic. Many do not comprehend that the alcoholic is a very sick person. And besides, we are sure that our way of living has its advantages for all.
Thank you, Lisa. And please reread just the first line.
We of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body.
Thank you. That first sentence tells us who authored the basic text for Alcoholics Anonymous.
And Timmy, read the second line, please. This is how it's going to go. You're going to segue back and forth.
To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book.
Thank you. The second sentence tells us why they went to the trouble to publish the basic text.
And Lisa, please read the third line.
For them, we hope these pages will prove so convincingly that no further I don't know what it is with that word. Authentication will be necessary.
That third sentence suggests the big book is all we will ever need to be successful in sobriety.
You know, I'm the squirrel on the bouncy branch who got out there on his own, and somebody's at the door, Trish. I figured out why authentication is so difficult to say, because it's the way that our tongue hits right up at the roof of our mouth, and we just can't get it to curl right. So, Tim, read the fourth and fifth lines, please.
We think this account of our experience will help everyone to better understand the alcoholic. Many do not comprehend that the alcoholic is a very sick person.
So the fourth and fifth sentences tell us that the big book is also for those who care about us.
And Lisa, the sixth line, please.
Besides, we are sure that our way of living has its advantages for all.
The sixth sentence is supported by the fact that the big book has given birth to over 200 anonymous fellowships that have nothing to do with drinking.
Our Roman numeral pages will be from the fourth edition. Pages in the third edition will be one page earlier. So, from page XIV, the only requirement for membership is an honest desire to stop drinking. Traditions 3 and 5. We have lost our understanding of honest by the time we decide to come to AA, so that the requirement has been eliminated. But if a person is really serious about living sober, they better have an honest desire to stop drinking and be willing to follow the directions in the big book.
The foreword to the second edition gives a historical account of the first 20 years of our history, how Bill found Dr. Bob, how they got busy looking for other alcoholics to try to help, how their success attracted the attention of some of our leading citizens, how we received some very favorable publicity, Jack Alexander's article, how the onslaught of new prospects forced Bill to develop the traditions. And then we hammer out the statement on page XX.
Of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once, and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapses, and among the remainder of those who stayed on with AA showed improvement. Other thousands came to a few meetings at first and decided they didn't want the program. But great numbers of these, about 2 out of 3, began to return as time passed. So 75% plus got sober and remained that way. In the early 1940s, the Cleveland groups were running at a 92% success rate due to using Big Book sponsorship.
Then Bill published the 12 and 12 in 1953, and by 1965 our success rate had dropped to 50%. Unfortunately, many newcomers are encouraged to try to use the 12 and 12 as their source of directions. Bill W. was the principal author of the Big Book and the sole author of the 12 and 12. On page 17 of the 12 and 12, Bill stated, "The book, Alcoholics Anonymous, became the basic text of the fellowship, and it still is. This present volume proposes to broaden and deepen the understanding of the 12 steps as first written in earlier work." By saying this, Bill indicates that the directions for the 12 steps are only in the Big Book and not in the 12 and 12.
Then in the late 60s, we started discussion participation meetings that failed to stick with our singleness of purpose. For example, the My Cat Died meeting. So, by 1980, we had dropped to 33%, the result of which we started ignoring the practice of focusing on our solution, and we drifted into group therapy. For recent years, our success rate has decreased to what appears to be less than 5% for those finding as much as 5 years of sobriety.
While there has been a dramatic change in our fellowship, the program has remained unchanged. Consequently, the 4th edition reads the same as the 1st edition.
Timmy, would you go to page 30, middle paragraph, 2 sentences, starting with "we learned"?
Page 30, what sentence?
Middle paragraph, 2 sentences, starting with "we learned."
We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery.
Thank you. In our heart of hearts, we must know, Doji, stop it. We must know that we are victims of a killer disease before we can begin recovery.
And Lisa, you're going to bounce back to the doctor's opinion on page XXVIII in the 4th edition, and you're going to read the first 2 paragraphs where it says the doctor writes.
XXVIII.
XXVIII.
The doctor writes, "The subject presented in this book seems to me to be of paramount importance to those afflicted with alcohol addiction.
One more sentence.
I say this after many years' experience as medical director of one of the oldest hospitals in the country treating alcoholic and drug addiction."
So we identify who Dr. Silkworth was and how he wound up at Towns Hospital, how his opinion opened the door for recovery. Until we understand a problem, we cannot find a solution. I use an example of walking out to my car, putting the key in the ignition, and the damn thing won't start. Problem. I can sit on my butt and talk about the car not starting until hell freezes over, but that will get me nowhere. So I look under the hood and I see that the battery cable has corroded. I know what the problem is, so the solution becomes very evident. I need a new battery cable, but that doesn't solve my problem. I still must take the action necessary to obtain a new cable, replace the bad one, and now I'm on my way. Understand the problem, know what the solution is, and take the action to make the solution a reality.
Hey, Tim, now flipping to the first paragraph on page XXVIII, we present the allergy which makes us powerless over alcohol. And please read the first full sentence that starts with "we believe."
XV, I.
XXV III.
X. I'm low.
It's there. XXV and 3 I's.
We believe, and you want how many sentences?
One sentence and it's a long one.
All right, thank you. We believe, and suggested a few years ago, that the action of the alcoholic on these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of an allergy, that the phenomenon of craving is limited to this class and never occurs in the average temperate drinker.
Thank you. The phenomenon of craving, which is the manifestation of the allergy.
And the last paragraph, Lisa, on page XXVIII, is where we find the initial information regarding the unmanageability. The alcoholic mind cannot distinguish the truth from the false. Would you read the whole paragraph starting with men and women?
Men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. The sensation is so elusive that while they admit it is injurious, they cannot, after a time, differentiate the true from the false. To them, their alcoholic life seems the only normal one. They are restless, irritable, and discontented unless they can again experience the sense of ease and comfort which comes at once by taking a few drinks. Drinks which they see others taking with impunity. After they have succumbed to the desire again, as so many do, and the phenomenon of craving develops, they pass through the well-known stages of a spree, emerging remorseful with a firm resolution not to drink again. This is repeated over and over, and unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, there is very little hope of his recovery.
Donald, do you have a question or something?
Yeah, I just want to interject something real quick and stuff. Phenomena. That's it.
We do have we do have fun with this meeting. The last paragraph on page XXVIII is where we find the initial. Whoops, I'm sorry, I already read that part. Derailed me. So we carefully dissect the whole paragraph. First, what is the effect that alcoholic men and women get from drinking?
Why is it so important that we have this spiritual event occur in our lives? Well, Dr. Silkworth said we drink essentially because we like the effect produced by alcohol. What is the effect an alcoholic gets from drinking? When we alcoholics had a few drinks, we were amazed at the change in the way we thought and the way we felt. A few drinks produced an entire psychic change.
Now let the fun begin. Let's go to page 83 in the Big Book and examine the 9th step promises. We're going to do this by beginning each promise with the phrase, "When I had a few drinks." Read each line in the first person. For example, the first promise would be, "When I had a few drinks." If I was painstaking about this phase of my development, I was amazed before I was halfway through. So Timmy, you go ahead and take the next one, starting with "When I had a few drinks."
That's page what?
83.
83.
It's going to be down towards the bottom of the page. It's the ninth step promises.
Oh. Speaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we
Okay. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We're going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor which shuts the door on it.
No, don't read the whole thing. Don't read the whole thing.
Okay.
You get one line, and each line you start, when I had a few drinks. Lisa's going to give you an example. Lisa, take the second line. Sorry, Trish.
When I had a few drinks, I was amazed before I was halfway through.
No. Next line. Next line.
When I had a few drinks, I knew a new freedom and a new happiness.
There you go.
Did you?
I sure did. Timmy, the next line. Starting with when I had a few drinks.
When I had a few drinks, we will not regret the past nor which shut the door on it.
Did you ever come out of a bar in a blackout, in a place you hadn't planned on visiting, with people you hadn't planned on being with, and learned you had done some things you sure wish you hadn't done? Because of the guilt and remorse, it was to be a secret. And then go into a bar, have a few drinks, and tell some stranger the whole story.
Certainly did. And Lisa, you get the next one.
When I had a few drinks, I could comprehend the word serenity, and I knew peace.
Did you too find that serenity and peace of mind replaced the turmoil with a few drinks?
Oh, yeah. Timmy, next line.
When I had a few drinks, no matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience could benefit others.
How willing were you to share your life story with some poor drunk who had just really had a bad day?
I love to talk about how bad my life was. Lisa?
When I had a few drinks, that feeling of uselessness and self-pity disappeared.
With a few drinks, did you feel that you just might really have a purpose in this world and feel sorry for those critters that didn't have what you had, although you just weren't too sure what it was that you had?
Almost every time. Timmy, the next line, but read it in the first person.
Okay. When I had a few drinks, I'd lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in my fellows.
Did a few drinks make you a little more interested in people, especially of the opposite sex?
Can I buy you a drink, honey?
Absolutely.
Lisa?
When I had a few drinks, self-seeking slipped away.
Did a few drinks make you somewhat generous?
Drinks for everyone.
Tim?
When I had a few drinks, my whole attitude and outlook upon life changed.
Did a few drinks take you from a gray, gloomy day to one that was bright and hopeful?
From a shade of brown to rosy pink with just a couple.
Lisa?
When I had a few drinks, fear of people and of economic insecurity left me.
Wait a second. Does your book have the word economic or financial?
Economic.
Really? Hang on just a second. You may have one of those misprinted big books.
What page are we on? Sorry.
Page 83 going into 84.
Mine's economic also.
So is mine. So the script is wrong then. So, okay, good, Lisa. Good catch, Lisa. Go ahead, Trish.
Do I enjoy being in the company of people sober?
Leave me alone.
Did your drinks diminish your concern for your financial difficulties?
How am I gonna pay these bills? I think I better have a couple of drinks to figure it out.
And Tim?
When I had a few drinks, intuitively knew how to handle situations which used to baffle me.
Did you two find that you were able to think much more clearly and wisely with a few drinks?
I had answers to questions that hadn't even been asked yet.
The unmanageability is clearly presented in the last sentence of that paragraph.
I will suddenly realize that booze is doing for me what I cannot do for myself.
And Trish, we're going to have to fix that in the script. From the article, Ways to Stop Drinking, you can get some ideas of how we applied the information Dr. Silkworth proposed.
The newcomer is also reminded that they need to be mindful of over-the-counter meds such as cough syrup, mouthwash, flavor extracts, etc., and that their healthcare providers should know they are alcoholics, so the professionals will be mindful of what they prescribe. We emphasize that they themselves are responsible for their sobriety, so be honest with those who have a need to know. We should also all be aware of supplements and the ingredients listed. Just because it says healthy doesn't mean it is safe for us. Some of the ingredients may trigger a craving. Some supplements do contain alcohol as a soluble base. No matter how long we have been sober, alcohol in any form can be deadly, and it can also be very easy to over-medicate when self-medicating.
We have now helped the newcomers understand the problem. We may now breeze through Bill's story by looking at the events that describe the progression of the alcoholism in his life. So we're going to flip to page 2. And Timmy, we're going to start with you. Page 2, middle of the first paragraph, approximately 10 lines down from the top of the page, one sentence, and it starts with, though my drinking.
Though my drinking was not continuous, it disturbed my wife.
Lois is on his ass about his drinking.
And Lisa, we're going to the bottom of page 3. The very last full sentence starts with, I began.
I began to be jittery in the morning.
Thank you. Bill was beginning to be jittery in the morning.
Let's move on to page 5. Timmy, first sentence, starting with liquor ceased.
Liquor ceased to be a luxury. Excuse me. It became a necessity.
Thank you. Liquor ceased to be a luxury. It became a necessity. He's lying about his drinking, hiding his bottles, etc.
And Lisa, staying on page 5 and going down to the third paragraph, you're going to read 4 sentences starting with, then I got.
Then I got a promising business opportunity. Stocks were at the low point of 1932, and I had somehow formed a group to buy. I was to share generously in the profits. Then I went on a prodigious bender, and that chance vanished.
Bill lost an opportunity to make some money because he drank.
Gee, we read all this in the meeting last night. Timmy, still page 5, fourth paragraph, 4 sentences, starting with I woke.
I woke up. This had to be stopped. I saw I could not take so much as one drink. I was through forever.
He made up his mind to never touch another drop.
And Lisa, finishing up page 5, the 5th paragraph, reading 3 sentences beginning with shortly afterward.
Shortly afterward, I came home drunk. There had been no fight. Where had been my high resolve?
Bill returned home drunk.
Okay, Timmy, page 7. End of the first full paragraph, 1 sentence, starting with best of all.
What paragraph?
End of the first paragraph, first sentence, starting with best of all. Page 7.
That's
End of the first paragraph.
I don't see.
For one sentence.
Oh, best of all, I met a kind doctor who explained that through certainly selfish and foolish, I had been seriously ill, bodily and mentally.
Bill met Dr. Silkworth and learned what was wrong with him.
And Lisa, page 8, the first full paragraph, 4 sentences starting with the word quicksand.
Quicksand stretched around me in all directions. I had met my match. I had been overwhelmed. Alcohol was my master.
Bill surrendered to the problem. Step 1.
We use the next paragraph to exemplify the simplicity of our program. Timmy, first sentence. Trembling.
What page?
Same page.
7?
No, 8.
8? Trembling, I stepped from the hospital a broken man.
Thank you. And now read the last sentence. I was to know. You, Timmy.
I was to know happiness, peace, and usefulness in a way of life that incredibly more wonderful as time passes.
A wonderful life as a result of having taken the action Ebby prescribed for him.
And Lisa, now we're going to look at the bottom of page 10 and the top of page 11. So starting with the last paragraph on page 10, where it starts, when they talked of a God, read all the way to page 11, where it says, the rest I disregarded.
When they talked of a God personal to me, who was love, superhuman strength, and direction, I became irritated and my mind snapped shut against such a theory. To Christ I conceded the certainty of a great man, not too closely followed by those who claimed him. His moral teaching, most excellent. For myself, I had adopted those parts which seemed convenient and not too difficult. The rest I disregarded.
Thank you. Bill's rebellion at the idea of a spiritual solution, identifying him as a hard-nosed agnostic.
Let's move on to page 12. And Timmy, we're going to start with you. In the second paragraph, 2 sentences, starting with my friend suggested.
My friend suggested that then seemed a novel idea, he said. Why don't you choose your own conception of God?
The freedom and responsibility we are given to develop an idea of God that we can begin to bet our life on.
We then explain the simplicity of step 2 by the fact that Bill saw his old drinking buddy, who was supposedly in the nut house for alcoholic insanity, sober. Both of them had been powerless over alcohol, but Ebby was sober and Bill was going to die. Ebby had found the power that Bill was unaware of. Ebby gave Bill hope, the beginning of coming to believe. And from that hope, Bill finally became willing to try Ebby's plan of action. Again, the idea of step 2.
Now, let's see. So I think it's Lisa's turn. Lisa, page 13, first paragraph, 1 sentence, at the hospital.
At the hospital, I was separated from alcohol for the last time.
Entering Towns Hospital on December 11th, 1934, going into DT's, taking step 3 on the 3rd day of his sobriety. Ebby visiting Bill in the hospital on the 4th and 5th days to help Bill take the action Ebby had learned to apply to his life, the result of which was a spiritual experience. Bill left the hospital on December 18th, 1934, at the end of 7 days, and lived 36 years without taking another drink. We are here because of the action Bill took, not the meetings he attended. Why? Because there weren't any meetings then.
We now identify the meaning of step 1. Powerless because of the allergy, unmanageability due to the mind that cannot remember that we have the allergy. It can only remember the sense of ease and comfort which comes at once by taking a few drinks.
Relieving the feeling of restlessness, irritability, and discontentedness.
Therefore, we are powerless over our body and powerless over our mind where alcohol is concerned. We are screwed.
And Lisa, let's go to page 24. Second paragraph, the squiggly writing, italics is very important stuff.
The fact is that most alcoholics, for reasons yet obscure, have lost the power of choice in drink. Our so-called willpower becomes practically non-existent. We are unable at certain times to bring into our consciousness with sufficient force the memory of the suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago. We are without defense against the first drink.
And Tim, if you could flip all the way to page 43 and read the last paragraph that starts with once more when you get there.
What paragraph was that?
The very last paragraph, once more.
Once more, the alcoholic at certain times has no effective mental defense against the first drink. Except in a few rare cases, neither he nor any other human being can provide such a defense. His defense must come from a higher power.
Thank you. And I would like to thank our readers, Tim and Lisa, tonight. Your part in this is done. You know, we could make this easy and just put the whole script up that Trish and I have, but we like the idea of you guys actually being in the habit and process of opening your book and looking for these things so that you'll know where they are, not only for yourself, but when it comes to working with another alcoholic as well. So, moving on, from the hope of hearing a recovered alcoholic tell their story of what they were like, what happened, and what they are like now, or reading the 44 personal stories in the Big Book, is the beginning of step 2. If lack of power is the problem, then a power greater than ourselves must be the solution. And we see that the recovered alcoholic has found that power. It takes no great mind to see that if lack of power or powerlessness is my problem, then a power greater than myself must be the solution. Once I can see that, I'm faced with a very simple decision. Am I or am I not willing to follow the clear-cut directions for recovery? But I need someone who knows how to do this, aka a sponsor.
So the simplicity of step 3 is to turn my will and my life over to the care of the God of my understanding. I learn how to turn my will and my life over to this power by taking steps 4 through 7. But I need someone, a sponsor, who has a working knowledge of taking the steps as directed in the Big Book, who can guide me through this process.
To determine if you made a good choice in sponsor, it's pretty easy to tell. If they suggest that you open your Big Book or offer to read with you, as some of you know happens, from page XI, the beginning of the doctor's opinion, and study to page 43, that is a good start in diagnosing step 1. These 51 pages will get you ready to see if you are ready to move on. Look at the first sentence on page 44.
In the preceding chapters, you have learned something of alcoholism. We hope we have made clear the distinction between the alcoholic and the non-alcoholic.
It tells you why it is so important to be thorough with your study to this point. From this study, we can separate the alcoholic from the non-alcoholic, which is so vital to the success of your group and AA as a whole.
Now, take the test. If, when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely,
How many of you have promised you'd never drink again? Appears you failed to manage the decision, so your life is unmanageable where alcohol is concerned.
or if when drinking you have little control over the amount you take.
How many of you cannot start drinking without getting drunk? It would appear that you too are powerless over alcohol. Still step one. I love the audience participation.
If that is the case, you may be suffering from an illness.
Chronic alcoholism of the hopeless variety.
Which only a spiritual experience will conquer.
How many meetings must you attend to have a spiritual experience? Or how many steps must you take to have this blessed promise become a reality in your life?
Page 44 through 57 will open the door for you to be able to consider your own conception of the God of your understanding.
I'm going to hold it right there for a second and make a comment, Trish. From 44 to 57 is the chapter to the agnostic. And what the chapter to the agnostic allows me to do is open my heart and mind to get rid of old beliefs and to be able to accept new beliefs in my life. So it becomes a spiritual pathway to finding God. Page 58 answers that stupid question we hear too often in meetings. I don't know how it works. The first sentence tells us how it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. In other words, we need to follow the clear-cut directions in the Big Book.
The program of Alcoholics Anonymous is a spiritual program. On page 59, we will find the first of several prayers. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. There are one or more prayers for each and every step from step 3 through step 12, which reminds us that the God of our understanding is the source of our recovery. We learn to invite him to be the solution to all our problems.
On page 62, we are told that the real problem is selfishness, self-centeredness, but we can never see it without some method of revealing the truth to us. So we make a decision to do precisely what our sponsors suggest and announce that decision in the prayer presented on page 63. That would be the third step prayer. This prayer is the invitation to God to come into our lives.
One of the beautiful things about the Big Book is it will tell us when to take a step, how to take the step, and what the results or promises of having taken that step will be, and provides us with the prayers to make certain that we are inviting the God of our understanding to be very involved in our recovery.
The last sentence on page 63 tells us that we now have to get busy and take the rest of the steps.
Steps 4 and 5 are diagnostic steps to learn if what they told us on page 62
selfishness and self-centeredness
is true for us. The clear-cut directions for step 4 are found from pages 64 through 71, and there are 5 prayers for step 4.
On page 75, we find the clear-cut directions for step 5 and the 2 fifth-step prayers.
On page 76, we find the direction for step 6, which is nothing more than a commitment to God that we will become students and practitioners of the rest of the Big Book, and there we will find the 6th step prayer.
On page 76, we find the 7-step prayer, which is now to be prayed after we have done our parts, steps 4 through 6. Now we ask God to please do your part by making me different. This prayer is the completion of the prayer we started on page 63. This is where we find the Amen and finish the prayer. This is a cycle of 5 steps, which started with the 3rd step prayer and finishes with the 7th step prayer.
On page 76, we will be most pleased to learn that if we have carefully followed the directions in taking step 4, that step 8 is all but a done deal.
From page 76 to page 83 are the direction for taking step 9, and there are 4 9th step prayers there.
Having carefully followed the path the first 100 laid down for us, we have now had a spiritual awakening or experience and have joined the first 100 as recovered alcoholics. The 9-step promises describe that blessed event.
On page 64, we take the first action to recover from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. By the time we get to page 83, we have recovered. We have then joined the first 100. We have been given the power that we lack to survive alcoholism, following the clear-cut directions outlined in just 20 pages of our basic text produces the miracle of recovery.
We are now to start our spiritual growth, and that occurs in steps 10, 11, and 12.
The clear-cut directions for step 10 are contained in the paragraph on page 84, beginning with, "This thought brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue to take personal inventory."
A running start for learning how to communicate with the God of your understanding is very adequately covered on pages 86, 87, and 88.
And now that we have received the power, it is our primary job to pass that on to the next newcomer God puts in our life. Did you get the door, Trish? The clear-cut directions for sponsorship are contained in chapter 7. But you won't find the 12-step prayer until you have reached the last page of the basic tasks. And here's that 12-step prayer. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick.
So there you have it. So utterly simple, yet so garbled in our meetings. I challenge you to be a part of the solution and not a part of the problem. The simplest guide that I follow in working with others is, if it isn't in the big book, they don't need to be exposed to it.
If you are encouraged by some really bad guidance from other people, to wait until you have a better understanding of what our program is about, I have one question for you. Okay. I gotta wait. I gotta look at the gallery here to see the reactions. How well did you like sex before you tried it? Well, you won't know a damn thing about recovery either until you have taken the action of taking the steps precisely as they were given to us. And that's a foundations meeting, folks. So now we are open for questions, comments, observations, experience. Hi, Malaya.
Hi. It was a lot of information. I couldn't keep up. But what interests me the most was she said something about I'm not sure if it was step 9. To get to step 9, there are 4 prayers. Then she said something else about
You want to go back over those page numbers, Trish?
step 4, there's 5 prayers. Did I hear that right? I was just wondering because I wrote it down, but I wasn't sure. Because if it is, I've never heard about that.
So
From page 76 to page 83 are the directions for taking the step 9 and 4 ninth step prayers. But within there, they're not going to be big paragraphs like the 3rd step and 7th step prayers. They might be one-liners, like at the very end, ask him in your morning meditation what you can do for the man who is still sick. So,
Okay.
or it may say, we ask God. That is a prayer, just that simple part. We ask God to show us, right?
Oh, okay. So when we take somebody through the book, we kind of like, those are highlight things. Those are like little
Absolutely.
things that we say, right? Okay.
Absolutely. We'll talk about highlighters in a couple of minutes too.
Okay, thank you. That was my question. Thank you.
Any
Yeah.
other?
I'm actually looking at page 75 right now. Bottom paragraph. Returning home, we find a place where we can be quiet for an hour, carefully reviewing what we have done. And here's the prayer in one sentence. We thank God from the bottom of our heart that we know him better.
Okay, that was simple. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
See, one of the things about reading the book is everybody that I work with the exception of when we're in meetings, right? We read it as it's written in the we, us, them, so on. But when I read it for myself, I read it in the first person. When I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, they told me to find myself in this book. So when I read it in the first person, I'm reading about the first 100, but I'm in the process of becoming part of the first 100 club, which is millions by now, right? Because I'm giving it an application to myself. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And one of the things that one of my friends who does sponsor, when he was taught by his sponsor, was to go through the first 164 and find every we in there, cross it out, and put I. So that, it meant something, from that person, or putting himself into the stories.
Let's talk about highlighters for a second, because here's what we have a tendency to do. We say, hey, Bill, thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
We have a tendency to just grab any highlighter and say, oh, this is good stuff, and highlight it, right? But choose a color and designate a particular color of highlighter for something. Prayers, one color. Observations, another color. Promises, another color. Actions, another color. That way, when you go through the process of reading your book and you come across that, whether you are sitting in a meeting or whether you're working with someone one-on-one, you will automatically know what that color designates. Oh, this is a prayer, this is an action, this is an observation, this is a promise. And just take on one of your, like your front cover or something like that, put your 4 or 5 different highlighters and write what kind it's for. And it'd be a whole lot easier to read your book that way. I recently had a conversation with someone about a piece of outside literature, and I'll go ahead and name it. It's called Drop the Rock. Not that Drop the Rock isn't a good book, right? But Drop the Rock is 48 pages on step 6 and 48 pages on step 7, but yet on page 76 of our book, it has, of our big book, it is just 2 paragraphs to do page 6 or step 6 and step 7. It is, step 6 is just simply willingness. I don't really need 48 pages to tell me how to be willing. there's a prayer on page 76 that says, actually, here's what it says. Let me just go to the book and read it for you of what it says. And maybe this will make sense. Okay, so we then look at step 6. We have emphasized a willingness as being indispensable. Are we now ready to let God remove from us all the things which we have admitted are objectionable? Can He take them now? Can He take them all, every one? If we still cling to something we have not let go, we ask God to help us be willing. So see, there's a willingness prayer to help me be willing. And for me, that is far less confusing than reading 48 pages on how to be willing. Because if not, maybe I'm just psychobabbling myself. And we talked about step 7. When ready, we say something like this: My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. And that ends the cycle of 5 steps that started with the 3rd step prayer on page 63. That's where the amen is. Now, I don't know about your big book, but in my big book, it doesn't say, congratulations, Santana, you just completed step 7. Now you get to go out into the world and control and manipulate your defects of character to have the outcome that you want them to have in people's lives. What it's telling me, my friends, is that I don't get a decision in what is or isn't of use to God. And I find great freedom in that, because God is going to use some of that to help me grow, maybe to help somebody else grow, but probably I'm going to take some of those defects of character to my grave. And the reason for that is to keep me in a place of remaining teachable. And if I remain teachable, I might get to experience a few moments of humility along the journey. I will never accuse myself of being a humble person, but I might get to experience it through this work. Other comments or questions? Observations?
Mr. Jamie, somebody asked me if the dialogue that you guys are reading from is from, they want to know if it's from Joe and Charlie.
It's part of the original Dallas Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group, yes, and Joe and Charlie would have been, along with Krusty Cliff. I don't know who gets full credit for it, but just like our Big Book study, Joe and Charlie is where the questions originated in the Big Book study. Joe and Charlie had done up to step 7 for their treatment centers, because they wanted to get people through step 7 by the time they left their treatment centers. And when Charlie started sponsoring Cliff said, well, why don't you guys finish off the rest of the book? And they said, why don't you finish it off? So he did. And so that's the full format that we have. So yes, this has Joe and Charlie foundations in it, and Joe and Charlie foundations have Krusty, or not Krusty Cliff, but they have some foundations of the Cleveland groups and Big Book sponsorship and that sort of thing in them from the beginning. So it's all been a process. Until Joe and Charlie came along, the Big Book was almost dead. Almost nobody read the Big Book. But they brought it back to life, and their whole series was called The Big Book Comes Alive. So, and we believe, at least in this group, that we have a responsibility to carry that work on. Any other thoughts or questions?
Oh, I'm going to say thank you.
You're welcome. You're very welcome.
Gemma was having problems with her phone earlier. That's why she's just now getting on.
It's not my business as long as she's here before the closing prayer. Timmy, since you did some of the reading, any thoughts?
Actually, the only one I had was it kind of gave me, excuse me, an old memory, and it kind of goes along with the spirituality conversation we was having earlier. I remember for the longest time coming in the program, I couldn't really pray. Like, I was just too mad and I was too messed up. My head wasn't together. And I would even go to church and a few other events, but I still didn't like pray. And I remember finally, I finally had one prayer because I was just miserable, that it was the only prayer I could get off my tongue, and it was 2 words, and it was God help. And I said that simple 2-word prayer from the day I had my last drink to January 23 of 23. And then I actually did the 3rd step prayer and then actually started reading the book. But it took me a while to even read the book. The book was intimidating. But I would go to meetings where we read the book, and I would kind of hear a verse here and there. But I really didn't start actually doing prayers until I did the prayers in the book. And of course, a year and a little bit later, now it's very common in my day to do it, personally, with my higher power on, almost all through the day, actually. But, it kind of took some memories back of that 3rd step prayer. And I'd actually even forgot that I'd written it in my book. And I actually even put the time down. It was 8:37 at night that I did that 3rd step prayer, and it changed my life. But that's a good memory to come up with today.
Very, very good. So just between pages 65 and 85, there are over 23 prayer suggestions. Here's the thing. A lot of people don't like structured, realistic, ritualistic prayer and all that. That's fine. You don't have to. At the end of the 3rd step prayer, it says the words were quite optional. However, you wanted to have the same idea. Just paraphrasing there. So, the thing that I love about all of the prayers in the book is they are unselfish prayers. They're not like, oh God, give me stuff. They are the type. They are the type of prayer of surrender. And how can I be of service? How can I help someone else? Prayer. That's why those of you who know me really well, I talk about living in the practices of page 84 through 88 every day. Because it's all about looking at me. I don't get to place blame on the rest of the world anymore.
In the first 164 pages, the phrase "we ask" or "we ask God" is in there 25 times, which tells me there's at least 25 times where the book is directing us to say a prayer. But There are also many prayers in there, like that 7-step prayer that Jamie read, that don't start out with the phrase "we ask." So there's plenty of places in there where it's saying we pray. And sometimes it's a paragraph, sometimes it's a one-liner. But it's always reminding us to keep God in the process and bring God back into the process and stay in touch with God and ask Him what it is we're supposed to see and learn as we do this.
Just like that 5th-step prayer that Trish went to a little earlier, we thank God from the bottom of our hearts that we know Him better. Breathe, breathe. Breathe in God. Breathe out fear and anxiety.
There's so much hidden things. It feels like I just gotta pay more attention.
Well, you know, there's a saying: if you wanna hide something from an alcoholic, put it in the big book.
Oh, jeez.
Hey, Jamie, would that be anything like breathe in God, breathe out Donald?
Yeah,
Oh, here we go.
exactly. Breathe in God, breathe out self. Breathe in God, breathe out fear. Breathe in God, breathe out anxiety. Breathe in God, breathe out control and manipulation.
Yeah, get rid of it. It's all excess stuff that you don't need.
Keeping out all that stuff makes more room for God in there.
I'm stopping mine, Trish.